2020, there were more plastic surgeries happened than the entire decade before that.
No way, because they're on video.
Because they're on video.
That's hilarious. I've never even thought about that.
Junaid Ahmed. He's a home studio architect who helps people create their own studios so they can be themselves and bring value to others. He's also the host of the Hacks and Hobbies podcast and is all about family, storytelling, and building real human connections.
The average person, literally every single person, takes 3 seconds to make a decision if they want to continue listening to that video, if they want to continue to have the conversation, or if they're going to watch that video. So when you bring your brand and your presence and your clarity in that image, in that little square, people pay attention.
I get a lot of like these looking up nostrils on Zoom meetings, and it drives me crazy.
If your camera's too high, then you don't have authority for the people that are watching.
The worst thing ever invented for a good studio structure is a ring light. And it's because the camera's right in the middle and then the ring's right on you and you're like this and you're like,
Yes.
at the end of the call, you're like, what the heck just happened? And you don't look that great because the light's coming straight on you.
Right.
But yet it was built like that.
Well, the ring light was initially designed.
Welcome to the pod.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you coming since you decided to build this. I think you do get credit. It's Junaid like lemonade is
Junaid like lemonade.
Is how he does his introduction.
That's right.
But yeah, I think I'd like to get into this just by first acknowledging the fact that we wouldn't have this studio if it weren't for you. And I think it's interesting in how like the relationship started because I meet you in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking at Traffic and Conversion, talking about marketing and business and like how to win from kind of the business and sport world, what I've done, and then I meet you with like this super strong desire to take my laptop and throw it out the window, and you're like, don't do that. Don't do that. It doesn't work better that way, I promise. So, and then you come to find out you literally live in my backyard. So it's always kind of cool. So it's always nice to see, got a chance to, buy your book, read it, not implement it, which I'm sure so many people do that. Most people don't even read it. So I at least read it, but I don't implement it. And I was like, stuff is way out of my league. So I needed to bring you in. So brought you in. And you built my home studio and turned it into a badass setup, which is great. And decided
in a tiny closet.
Oh my God! So people don't realize that. I should probably show everybody like the before and afters because it doesn't look that way. But even this studio is small. People don't realize how small it is. And my home studio, I got. Once 2020 hit and Tanya had to start working from home, she took my big desk downstairs in the basement. So I had the basement because that's where I would work when I wasn't traveling.
Yeah.
And then she took that because at first she was actually like working in like the living room, like on a chair, holding her laptop. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you actually have a real job. I don't even have a real job. You need to look a certain way. Like, you need to show up a certain way on camera. So I was like, you need to take my office and get that set up. So then I needed to still do my videos, which are really important on how I show up.
Yeah.
So I got put in our like storage unit, gun closet, safe room. Basically, there's like, I don't know, 4 foot by 6 feet max. It's like a little jail cell box. And people don't realize how small it is. But like I could like touch my screen and like lean back and hit my head. And you turn that thing into making it look like magic. So thank you. But before we get into like what you do, which is build home studios and make people look like they're on stage on Zoom or online, tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, who is Junaid?
Well, I'm a husband first, father second, 4 kids, and I just love technology. I got pulled into being behind camera when I was 11 years old. I bought my first camera for $1 from my uncle, and it was a film camera. This is like in the 80s, and I was just so fascinated by capturing these photos and having to develop the film and just being behind camera. And then in 1992, my dad got us our very first computer, and I was like, wow, this is pretty fascinating. And so my dad's been in the system analyst space, working for banks and different governments over the years. So when I saw him sit down in front of this computer and he's just typing away without even looking at the keyboard, it's just
fascinating.
It's like, oh my God, it's amazing. So that pulled me really into technology, and I was just love struck ever since.
Interesting. That's so cool. That's fascinating because talk about like polar opposites and regarding,
Yeah.
like I have the same level, or at least for me, I have a lot of interest in technology. I think it's fascinating. I do run a technology company, but it doesn't work for me. And everyone laughs. They're like, "Hey, don't let Cav touch that. Like, it's gonna break." I mean, I learned how to type on a typewriter.
Yeah.
When my mom was in college and like going away through, getting some more certifications and anything else and an advanced degree, and she was typing on a typewriter, and like that's how you learned how to punch the keys. I still punch the keys to this day, and it's pretty bad. Like when people watch me, they're just like, "Don't do that," and it's pretty funny. They're like, "We see what you mean," but everything it tends to work for you. Like I always kind of laugh when people just kind of have that ability to like that's your thing and it works when you're doing it with sports or with competition, like figuring out strategy to win and understanding kind of like there's a trend that people don't see, and I'm learning.
Yeah.
I've always had the ability to like spot that. A lot of times people, take that to like, hey, you could spot the pony, you could pick the horses. Doesn't work in gambling for some reason, but when it comes to like winning and coaching, I pick better athletes.
Yeah.
You tend to have things that work for you, and you realize where things are. Like you have that ability to kind of figure it out. Were you always just this curious with technology?
I have been very curious since the beginning, like I mentioned, right? So when I first came to the US in 95, I had learned about America Online from the discs, like back in 90s. And I was like, what is this thing? Because I was in Saudi Arabia. And I was like, what is this? I didn't have any access to internet. But when I came to the US, I was like, oh my God, I'm in America. I can probably get America Online, right? Get online. So anyways, I played around with computers. I took them apart, put them back together at a very young age. Well, I was in my, in my teens or late teens, whatever. But as I got intrigued by it, I, just dove in with my passion. I even started working at a computer shop where we built computers and whatnot. So that, and then always learning and, trying to stay ahead of the curve. Hey, what's Intel working on? What's the memory configuration on these computers? Like reading about them helped me, stay afloat or stay ahead of the tech. Now, when you said, everything kind of works for me, it's hilarious because at home we have the cameras on my wife's like, this camera's never working. I'm like, yes, it will work sometimes, but it won't, it'll work 95% of the time. And that's how technology is. And that's how most things are too, right? So you look at that failure rate and look, okay, how can I reduce the failure rate? What are the things that are causing it to not work? And you do the same thing with athletes, right?
Absolutely.
What's not working? Okay, let's try a different way. So I've tried that same philosophy with technology that you've done with the athletes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always fascinated by people that are willing to kind of break things and put them back together. I mean, I wouldn't say my first fascination with that, but one thing I did a lot growing up was like take apart like RV cars and then put them back together and, race them. And we didn't get a lot of things that were brand new growing up, which I think is a huge benefit. I think a lot of guys are like, oh, it's like, you got things, but I got a lot of hand-me-downs and it was kind of like super excited for it. It's like, I'm eyeing that. That's sitting on the shelf at a friend's house for years. It's like, that's what I want one day. And then you get it and then you like take it apart and you're like, can you soup it up? Like, can you like switch the batteries out? Can you change the engines a little bit?
Exactly.
And I like that a lot. I did tend to take more things apart than put things back together. But that kind of spending hours trying to figure out where the screw goes and why is it not working is kind of cool. Once you like powered things on and you had that the lights on and the technology was like at least operational, it didn't work for me. I was like, oh, this isn't good. So, if it was a jet ski or if it was a boat, like I could take apart a carburetor, put that back together. But like now all these new vehicles, I was like, I can't know what to do. I don't know what to do. So it's interesting and how much technology has advanced, since you got into it and where you are today. But where you are today, you've built like a little bit of an online presence as someone who helps people show up as if they were on stage, but yet you do it from their comfort of their home. And you've created, in the world of business, it's always about like doing the unscalable. And part of like building your presence, whether you're an author, you're a speaker, you're a coach, it's definitely better to sell from stage because you have basically borrowed authority. Your people put you on stage. It's like, hey, you got to know what you're doing. I met you at TNC, one of the largest marketing conferences in the world, and I'm speaking on stage. And, it was kind of nice. Like at my event, like I marketed for my own talk so that people showed up because you want to put butts in seats. That, and the fire marshal had to come in multiple times to like say, hey, like this room's too packed. And I was like, don't you, like every person you pull out of there is like dollars in our business. So, you know, I'm going to do what I do back in the day. I'm paying the damn fire marshal off if I have to. But on stage, I hold a presence. Yeah. When you're online, you hold a square. Tiny little. It's like you're this little guy. And one of the things that you do so well is you help people show up as if they're in your room on stage having that conversation with them. I mean, you guys will never know this, but this is like that's the wall right there. I'm halfway through it. That's the other wall. It's a tiny spot, but yet when you in post-production on YouTube, Instagram, when you what you've set up here, it looks like it could compete with like the big boys in that space. And it's not even that it's almost like the opportunity cost of not doing it the right way could affect the business so much. So tell me where like this idea came to, like, how do I make somebody, number one, make it useful for them when they, because you make it easy. But then the other aspect of it is like you make people like look so crisp, and it makes such a difference. It feels like you're there. Like when things are blurry or things are lagging, people tend to be like kind of, you know, like those like I gotta grab my phone. They literally lose connection with mentally. Yeah, absolutely. And they're like, hey, you know, what's going on here? And they do that all the time because they're not looking at you; they're looking at themselves. Exactly. So where did that all come from?
So it came from me stepping into the podcasting space in 2018. Got it. And as I interviewed other people, I didn't really care much about video in the beginning for podcast video anyways. I'm like, hey, this is an audio podcast. But around that same time, I was also producing commercials and short films and whatnot. So setting up the stages for those specific locations, courses that I was creating, I was setting up these shots. And one of the courses that I took was Hollywood camera work. And it talked about the 2-shot and the 3-shot and the cowboy shot. And all of those things are different framing of the camera of what you want to convey to the audience. Right. So when you take that staging and that blocking mindset from Hollywood into a home, like you don't want to show the entire room. You just want to show a specific area and what message the person is conveying. So I brought all that technology or all that learning into my own space. So when the pandemic hit, I was like, okay, I'm already working from home, but I'm also podcasting and I'm showing up on camera more and more. And as I saw other leaders in this space like Pat Flynn and Luria show up on camera doing these live streams, and it looks so crisp. I was like, how are they doing that? And then Pat posted this blog that lists out, hey, here's all the gear that's in my space. And I'm like looking in my closet. I'm like, wait, I have all of that gear.
So it's not necessarily the weapon, it's how you use it.
It's how you use the gear that you already have, right? In the book, I've mentioned, you know, you start with your camera. In 2014, my brother-in-law and I, we were off-roading, and I shot all of these off-roading shots on my phone, edited together, and he then posted it in his off-roading group. That video alone got 35,000 views. It was shot and edited on an iPhone. The reason I'm sharing that is because how you use your tool, how you use your equipment that you already have is going to get you that much farther. Yeah. So the reason behind setting up a stage, and every single time you probably get this, your image looks so beautiful, it's so sharp. Are you in the Hollywood studio? Are you going to be on a news station? Like I get all those comments all the time because.
And it's not just because you're a good-looking brown dude, because you got that good. He's got the good headshot. The beard looks fake. Everything looks loud there.
Right. So all of those things, you know, those are adding to the whole conversation. But again, it's that first impression, right? The average person, literally every single person, takes 3 seconds to make a decision if they want to continue listening to that video, they want to continue to have the conversation, or if they're going to watch that video. So when you bring your brand and your presence and your clarity in that image, in that little square, people pay attention. So that's what I kind of dove into. I worked on my own space for about 6 months to get the lighting right, everything dialed in, so that every single time I come in there, again, setting up technology is opportunity cost. The longer it takes you to set something up, the longer you're going to forget what you wanted to talk about.
And I get frustrated too.
Right.
This is why I like the Go Box, like how I met you through Ken. So a friend of mine, Ken Okazaki from Japan, had built like a mobile studio that he has. He's put in the hands of some of the top coaches, whether it be like, I think
Peng Jun's got one.
Yep, he's got one. Taki's got one. Hermosi's got one. He's doing stuff with like Dan Martel. So it's like he's got like a laundry list of people that have had him. The Heights have one. Like there's some just really good people.
Yeah.
And I had in the earlier stages, right? I'm like, yeah, this is going to work. Like this is basically taking you on the road, and for my travel schedule, super valuable. And then you set that up for me, and it's like 2 minutes, boom, I'm live. But I get really frustrated on like the setup and breakdowns of environments, and then I get distracted because I'm like, is this going to get to work or not? And and you have this kind of almost, if anyone's read the book, The E-Myth, which is like your systems thinking of like how you start and open your day, how do you open, your business, how do you close your business, how do you have a process for the way that you operate? You have a process for the expert that shows up on video to where it's like, wait a second, let them stay in their zone of genius. It's so hard to like flip a light switch and be like, I'm ready to present.
Yeah.
So like, how do I protect that energy of the entrepreneurs, protect that energy of the presenter?
Exactly.
So that they could do that. What are some of the tips that you could give people, practically speaking, so that they could set up their stuff so they don't have to think about it a lot when they're ready to go live?
Right. So the number one thing that I tell folks is that make sure you don't have lights in your background. Like, for example, windows.
Oh, got it. Right. Say, really shit ton.
You need lights in the background that are adding some kind of. You need lights in the background, but what I mean is,
you don't want to create a silhouette.
Right. You don't want to create a silhouette. You don't want to have things that might be distracting to the camera, because again, we don't like looking at the sun. Camera does not like looking at the sun either. It wants you to be focused on the sun. So number one thing, use windows as your number one light source.
Got it. And I think that's interesting too, because in coaching, so if I'm working with a young group of athletes and I want to find out, and I need to get them to pay attention to me, I cannot have my back to the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I can't have my back to the sun is, as an athlete's looking at me, there's a strong chance that I may misinterpret him not paying attention to me as disinterested or disrespectful. But in reality, you're asking him to stare at you, which is right by the sun.
Exactly.
So the sun's coming down on them. And if you're not like in their line of sight on the shadow, he is getting blinded.
Yes.
So it's not that it's distracting.
Exactly.
It's not that he's being disrespectful. It's that as a coach, you're being delusional to think that you're more important than the sun.
Right.
That energy source is piping right through his eyes, so he's in pain.
Yeah.
So you as a coach, you learn to like move yourself to where you could situate it where there's a good line of sight and there's not anything in this path. So you're telling me it's the exact same thing.
Exact same thing for him.
See, that I could figure out, but the damn technology thing messed me up.
So, eliminate those things. Number two thing that's the most important is how you're framed in the shot. Right? A lot of the time,
I'm normally framed round. Is what I'm normally framed.
So what I mean is, where is your eye line compared to the rest of the square? Right? So our eye line should always be on the top 3/3 area. So if you see in this shot, our face and eye line is towards the top, whereas the rest of the body, or your bust is showing to the rest of the shot. Got it. Most of the time, the head is right in the middle of the shot.
Yeah.
Becoming
looks like a cartoon circle.
Yes, and you don't want that, a cartoon circle. You don't want to be a bullseye in that shot, right? So you want to be up higher in the shot, because that creates authority. We're basically mimicking what we see on television. We're mimicking what we see in the newscasters. How are they showing up? We're matching what they.
Does that help with a little bit? Because I have to think that there's a lot of like how you set up your camera helps with the psychology of sales and presence. Yes, it makes you look a certain way, but it also like gets the audience to potentially like lean in a little bit. Yes. And oftentimes what takes place is, if you're, I get a lot of like these looking up nostrils on Zoom meetings, and it drives me crazy. It's like, boy, constantly like you're staring at them.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Yes.
You look like crap.
Yes.
Or, I mean, for those that don't know, that's what the top of my head looks like. I see this all the time. I'm like, you're short and you're bald and your camera's positioned way up here.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is they're just shining a light right down on the bald head. And I'm like, what are you doing? You know, and you're looking up and I have seen easily, it is, I would love to get like true stats across this. And maybe, you know, there's got to be, you know, sales for it or some sort of Zoom statistics, but cameras that are salespeople that have cameras going from the top down looking at them, they don't close. And it's partly probably because of the line of sight, the eye line.
Yeah.
It makes you feel like you're higher than them and you're in the buying position. I don't want you to feel like you're lower, you know, like they're beneath you and they're like 6'9".
Yeah.
But there is something to be said about just having a slight tilt to the eye of I'm looking up to the person.
And the perfect example is right here. We're both sitting on chairs. We're eye level, right? If I were sitting on the floor and talking to you, it'd be a different kind of dynamics. It's almost like you're at a kindergarten classroom. You're sitting up on a chair, and all the kids are sitting on the floor. Well,
all my kids, all my people,
all they're on the floor. So again, you want to create that equal balance when you're setting up yourself on the frame. And you're absolutely right. You know, if your camera's too high, then you don't have authority for the people that are watching you.
And as a teacher to students, as a coach to athletes, as a consultant to, you know, executives or entrepreneurs, like you want them to be, you want them to look up to you.
Yes.
But you also want to listen to you.
Yes.
And you can't do that with such a big gap. If you have a classroom gap is basically teachers on the podium, students are at the desk, and you lose that connection. This is why, like, you know, Montessori schools, religious environments, you know, Muslim schools, there's a lot more interaction with the teachers than in traditional structures. You see this all the time.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that most of those environments for younger kids are significantly better for their development, no matter what your religious position is. And it's not about that. It's about like values and beliefs.
Yeah.
And I can tell you without a doubt, one of the things that helps kids grow is culture. And one of the benefits of different cultures, and when you look at them when they're younger, is in the educational system, is who's teaching them. And it's normally that the teacher and the people that are guiding them are playing and working with them.
Yeah.
You know, not doing it for them or not commanding, but they're with them in that conversation. And it's the same thing when you're online. It's like you want to be able to bring people in and onto the screen easily. You want to be able to talk to them. And I still struggle with that a lot because everyone kind of goes into that little square box. And how do you bring people in and out and change that levels? Because you do that a lot sometimes when we're having conversations. You like bring people up, boom. It's like, hey, it's almost like we're having this digital podcast and we become like we're sitting here, except there's a split screen. And now the audience is able to see both of us here on the Zoom channel. What is it that you do to kind of set that up, and why do you do that?
So that's all done in post-production using Ecamm Live as a software. Again, we're essentially trying to mimic what television studios been doing for many, many years.
Got it. Right. And they figured it out.
They figured it out.
Multiple millions of dollars to kind of do it.
Exactly. So we're just following that model to see, hey, how can we also mimic what's already working in television? How can we make it work for ourselves?
Sure.
So when you're bringing remote audiences, remote guests on the screen, you want everybody to be level, you know, on the same level and level field. And that way, when you're having the conversation with each other, people are then transferring the authority from you, who's the known person for your audience, to the other person who's in.
That makes sense. And I think what's also interesting to know is like how you position lighting to change almost the mood.
Yes.
So it's really tough with me when I go to a lot of studios because I wear a hat and it's part of my image, right? Like I'm very big on my look and feel and how I show up, and, you know, and having a hat means that like I'm game ready. Like that's kind of like, you know, I do have no problem being bald. It's not a big deal to me. My mom would love to send me to Turkey and make me have hair like you. But for me, it's interesting because this is like, hey, thinking cap, I'm on, right? Like I'm in coach mode and that's kind of my job. And I do that. I wear a fedora, I wear a golf hat. I like hats. You look at pictures of me when I was younger, like literally 6, 7 years old, I'm wearing a hat. And I just always enjoyed it. And from a coaching perspective, it allows me to say like, hey, I'm looking at you. I'm here. Well, it allows others to identify where my focus is as well. Now, I have really good peripheral vision and coach perspective because it's my job.
Yeah.
But if I'm looking at an athlete, I want them to know I'm looking at them. And if I'm paying attention to another athlete, I still have the ability to do that without them knowing often.
Yeah.
But this is my coach mode, and
Love that.
it becomes very difficult to handle lighting in an environment like that, because there's a study that's been done, and I kind of I want to use this study for a lot of reasons, but that there's a reason why animal pictures are in doctor's offices where the eyes are staring at straight into the camera, because of those posters and pictures, because they follow you, and kids tend to tell the truth more often if there's eyes on them. So when Thomas was born, I'm like, all right, find all the baby pictures, find all the baby elephants, baby giraffes, and you making sure the eyes look right at them. Yeah, I'm just kidding. But I think that it's interesting because once we lose eye contact on screen, they immediately pick up
they're looking somewhere else. They're
something
looking down
else.
there. Yeah.
They grab this
Yeah.
because they get disconnected the minute you get disconnected. You do a really good job with the lighting so that the eyes are a focal point in the conversation.
Yeah.
I struggled with that before I met you, because I was, I was looking at the camera, or I was looking at the camera, and the camera was right here. And you're like, but the camera is right here. Look at the camera, but I'm looking at the person.
Yes.
So how important is that from lighting in the eyes?
So we tend to look at the person on Zoom, and it's very normal because we're trying to make eye contact with them, right? So we're trying to make eye contact just like we're making eye contact. We're not even looking at the camera, because that's how human beings converse. So when we're on Zoom, we tend to look at the screen as opposed to at the camera lens, which is where you want to look at. To solve that problem, and this is something that we recently implemented for your studio, is adding a teleprompter, a confidence monitor. So every single person that you're looking at, they're right behind the camera. So you're looking at the camera and the person at the same time.
Now, I think most people on Zoom are actually looking at themselves. I think subconsciously they think that I want to look at Junaid.
It is true.
But they're actually like, how do I look in this camera? I'm looking at him. I'm looking at me. That's me right there.
Right.
And I want to see, how do I look? Do I really look like that? Am I that fat?
Right.
Don't care. Cool. Am I that bald? Yep. But most people are looking at themselves. Part of the benefit of that too is, I don't like the way I'm showing up. How do I manage my energy? The feedback loop was really, really quickly. It's like looking in a mirror. I struggle. My eyes aren't that great when it comes to reading, and the teleprompter is great for me because it allows me to put the text box right on the camera, so that I could read the text if there's comments that are going in the chat. Yeah. Because if I ever do a call, I'm like, hey, someone else read that, because if I'm reading,
it's really tight.
And everyone's laughing. They're like, we could tell you're reading the chat, coach. And I'm like, how can you tell? And they're like, because you look like you're 80, And I think that you've created, my studio now has, I got the iPad. So that's the external thing that I get to play with. I got the main monitor, the teleprompter, the monitor on top, and then the side monitor. Wow, I got 4.
Yeah, 4 monitors.
I'm a big boy now. I feel like I'm a tech genius.
So the thing you mentioned about people are looking at themselves more than anything else is true, because there's a study out. In 2020, there were more plastic surgeries happened than the entire decade before that.
No way, because they're on video. That's hilarious. I've never even thought about that. Nick Tuck is coming back. Bring this show back. They're going to make a lot of money. Just don't bring back the killing.
No, please not. But that's exactly what happened in 2020, because we were all on Zoom. We were all looking at ourselves. And instead of spending time and energy on getting the lighting right, in getting the audio right, in getting, the distraction out of our shot, no, I need to work on these wrinkles over here. And that's another thing that 4K enables me. People are a lot more
aware of their skin.
Look like you.
You have a lovely skin, sir. I look very weathered. I look like leather.
Well, you are spending a ton of time out in the sun with your athletes, so
that's what I enjoy doing.
I'm not gonna hear that. Yeah.
I'm not worried about that. I think it's interesting because you have such a good ability to give confidence to somebody with an area that is very obviously uncomfortable for people, which is showing up on stage, showing up online, being recorded. The minute you put a mic in front of someone's face, they like shut down.
Yeah.
When you start to look good, you build a little bit of like,
oh my God,
I get a little confidence. Like, I like my studio. I want to be in there more. I want to set it up. I want to shoot here more. So sometimes, the content game is interesting that you got to get started. And, there's a couple quotes that I want to pull out of your book because I think it's valuable. This one's by Zig Ziglar, which is one of my favorite quotes, which is, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.
yes,
When you first start with your studio, I find that it's like good, better, best model.
yes,
It's like, what do you currently have? Just change your positioning. I remember you did a call with a client. So one of the things that, you do is like anybody that we have on the creative side within the team at Sites at Scale, if we have a marketing client that we're really building their brand for, we have you jump on a call with them and you say, hey, like, let's make sure it's good enough to get started. And then we could go from there. So it's good, better, best. What do you currently have? And then it's just using the tools that you have, the gears that you have to make it better. And then it's a matter of investing money. So you first start out with time and techniques, then you go into money. But you got to start, because if you are sitting on a computer with a laptop, like, just throw a shoebox underneath your laptop, and now all of a sudden it's at a much better level and you're not looking through your nostrils. Turn from your back to the window to facing the window. By the way, it's so good for you mentally. You're looking out the window.
looking out the window.
Right now, it's so cool. Right now we have 2-3 hummingbirds. We have 2 hummingbird houses, and we have 2 to 3 hummingbirds that are right in the window that I could look right outside of. And it's just like, I don't know about you, but that's pretty cool. That's going to put me in a good mood.
Yeah.
I start my day.
Yeah.
And I'm looking out into the sun. So you have something that's right in front of you, and then you have something that's got depth. And depth is actually going to be helping you with better thinking and more clarity.
Yes.
It's obviously going to make you show up better, but it costs no money to turn around.
It doesn't.
And I have a lot of friends that are into gaming and are into tech. And when you show up at their office or you show up at their desk, it's like, this looks cool. Why do you look so bad when you're online? Because they're showing their front of their desk looks cool, but their backgrounds look horrible.
Good.
And I find we have like a no Zoom background rule in the company. Like, we do not let people look. We don't, because we want them to understand that they're responsible for their professionalism somewhere where they are. Yeah. Plus, it also gives familiarity to. It does. I'm seeing you in the same place over and over again.
Yeah.
Like, you start getting like faded halfway in.
And we've all seen that.
Well, it's like, you look like the Homer Simpson meme where you're like backing into the bush. So, but what would be the tips to be good, better, best? No money, just getting started. What would be the first things? Lighting, angles. What are the first kind of rules of investments of time and techniques?
So, like I mentioned earlier, make sure that you're using the windows in your room as your key light or as your main light. And if the sun is too harsh, just add a white sheet or a curtain to soften that light. Because when you soften that light, it helps the camera show you better. Now, in photography, if you've seen any people's photographs, the shadows are super soft, because they're using these large lights with a ton of diffusion. And when they take that shot, it just creates a really beautiful, flattering light that creates who you look like and how you
flattering, something I don't get in pictures. I'm doing my best.
The other thing you'll notice is framing, right? So like I mentioned, your eye line should be at the top third of the frame. And then, you want to see at least this much of your body on the entire shot. So if you're too far away, guess what you're creating? You're creating that distance between you and the person that you're trying to talk.
So it's actually important to visually be seen close to the camera.
Yes.
Fascinating.
And that's a Hollywood technique as well, because if let's say you're following a film or you're watching a film, the antagonist or the villain is always shown a little further away than the hero is much closer up. You have an extreme close-up, you have close-up shots of the hero, because with visual storytelling, they're saying, hey, you're following this person's story more than that person's story.
Got it.
So when you show up further away from the shot, you're creating that distance. Whereas if you're much closer in the shot, you're creating that intimate, hey, I'm here for you. I'm here to do search.
Interesting. Cool. So then, like, moving on from that, like, immediately, like, just changing the camera angles, working on the lighting, holding the position of the camera makes a big difference. Eye level. Is there any like settings in their computers that is valuable, or is it all just too individual?
So settings are there's some individual settings that you can probably update in Zoom and make sure that you have the HD turn on. So if you're using Zoom, which basically adds the additional, like it'll remove these black bars from the side.
Got it. Yeah.
So that's really good. What's really awesome is in the new Zoom application, they keep adding new things. You can also turn on studio lighting. And in studio lighting, you'll notice that it's dimming your background and it's highlighting you more. So why are we doing that? Because you're the talent in the show. They're coming here for you, right? When you mentioned that you have a policy of no virtual backgrounds, I have the same policy when I bring guests on my show. Like, hey, please turn off virtual background. Please turn off blurred background, because I want to see who you are, because this is an evergreen content that we're creating. Plus, it creates a sense of ownership. Hey, this is my space.
Exactly. And when I had the gym, I mean, there's so many people would love to take a picture. Like, hey, can I get a picture back there? Because they are so used to getting videos from me where I'm at my desk, and behind me had like, anytime an athlete would write me a letter or a coach would write me something, I had some like awards back there. Yeah, a bunch of like interesting little knickknacks. You know, I remember like when Gary Vee launched his shoe, like I got one of the first editions, like I tied a knot in it, and it was like a little bit of a play on kind of me growing up, where we would like throw shoes up. Like, nah, I wouldn't do it, but I lived in a neighborhood where every other week there was somebody's shoes that was thrown up on the power line.
Yeah.
And I just like hung them up there, and it was like kind of in the background, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it built that like connection, because someone could kind of look at it and go, you know, you look at these like what the F moments, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. What's that over there? And it's like these like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And you start to connect with it a little bit more. So I thought that was really valuable, and I kind of wanted to make that into our business today, where how can I help create an environment where, you know, staff members are gaining get the respect from clients without needing, you know, like, listen, like this person's worked in the business for 11 years. They're they're the best at what they do.
Yeah.
They're going to take care of you. They're good people. And, you know, like, pay attention to them. They don't have to be Coach Cav with 20 years experience being, you know, Olympic coach, and now here I am working with you. It's like, well, wait a second. We have somebody that just started, you know, 6 weeks ago, and their, you know, first job they've ever had, and they should have the same level of respect from the customer.
Yeah.
How do you gain that from 10 years to 10 weeks of experience? Well, you do that by making them humanized.
Yes.
You bring them into the environment and say, like, this is my space.
Yeah.
This is who I am.
Absolutely. So lighting, framing, positioning. Audio is another very important thing that a lot of people don't pay attention to, because you'll get this tinny sound in your voice if you have hard surfaces in your room, if you don't have any rugs, or, you know, if you have walls without curtains or frames, you can immediately hear those echo in that audio. So if you can level up that audio by either adding elements in your room so that you reduce the echo, or getting a better microphone that's going to, you know, keep those echoes from coming in. So again, we are auditory human beings. We all say we're visual learners, yes, but we cannot communicate without sound. And sound is so important, especially in this era that we are in right now, where AI is looking at every single word to transcribe your content, transcribe what you're saying. So having really sharp audio is an absolute no-brainer. In fact,
and that's why you did, like, these are soundproof panels, so it actually diffuses that. There's also some other soundproof panels there. We have a carpet here, so that's why you did that in such a small room. It's actually a very loud room. It wouldn't be what your ideal setup is. It's just what we had.
Yes.
So that makes sense of like why you did some of that stuff to kind of even position it, even just like how you rounded this out to make the room look bigger makes a big difference. And then just creating the depth. There's also like multiple different scenes to this, which is very unique for such a small space.
Yeah. And again, we all say pictures tells 1,000 words. So essentially, when you're setting up your stage, you're setting up your room, you're setting up your layout, you're doing the same thing. That one photo or that first image that people see, immediately makes the connection for them.
And it's just like, oh, he shows up serious, so I have to show up too. So that's what's really cool. There's 2 other quotes in the book that I thought were interesting. The book is very practical and tactical, so I won't get into that stuff. And I always wanted to kind of stay big picture with you, which is this quote I love is the eye is the window of the soul. The camera is the window of the eye. And it's like that talk about making a first impression and talk about what true meaning is like, you all know this to be true, but we break all the rules.
Yes, we do.
And how do we just make it easier? So you go from this kind of like, good being like the tools that you currently have, better being maybe getting some lighting and maybe update your camera. And then best is, all right, I need to show up as a professional. Let me build my studio. And if I'm going to build my home studio, I want to set it up to where not only is it user friendly, it's inviting, but it's exciting to go into. Like I want to, like, for instance, you fought me on this and I regret not listening to you the first time because we were just like, all right, you win. And there's 2 things. I'll give them a little credit, just a little bit. But one of them was not having everything Bluetooth and digital. And I was like, come on, like nowadays you can't just be like, hey, Google, turn this on. Hey, Alexa, turn this on, right? Like, hey, Siri, turn this on. Hey, chat, do what I tell you to do. And I was like shocked that you were against that being such a technology guy. And you won me over quickly. But I was obviously, after I forced it, I was like, no, I wanted to be like, I want to walk in my room and be like, Alexa, I want to be Iron Man.
Right.
I really do. I was like, Piper, get this thing going, right? Get me coffee. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to show up as Iron Man. And I'll leave that to you to explain why you went with a very older school approach, manual flipping on a switch versus a just, command.
So, number one, you mentioned earlier, technology always breaks.
It's
Right?
definitely
So,
allergic.
because it's always breaking, you want to eliminate as many break points as possible.
Yeah.
Right. So as you eliminate these break points, you're making sure that every time you flip that switch, it is going to work. I have kids, right? So anytime I tell them to do something, and if they take longer than it should, you tell them again. So you don't want technology to be that way for your studio. So you want it to be immediately working. You press a button, it's recording, it's going, it's supporting. So that's what I like technology to do. Like even here we have manual switches to turn on the 7 different lights that we have in this place.
I know, but it's like every time I turn them on, I know if the lights are not on, it's like it's not plugged in or the light's off. Yeah. It's not because like things aren't working and they're not connected. So it just makes it so much easier for me to go, okay, that light's on. All right, we're live.
Yeah.
We're good. And it was so interesting because I fought you on the Bluetooth side of things and I could never get the light to work and it was driving me nuts. And he's like, just grab that remote and press that button. And I did it. And I'm like, all right, cool. Can we get 2 of those? And he's like, yes. And that's what I told you the first time.
Yes.
But kind of going back, sometimes it's like, just because it's new doesn't mean it's better.
Right.
So there's a better way, and the better way is actually designed for whatever your skills are. And for me, my skills are communication and people and showing up and energy. That's definitely not technology. And then I can't be at my best if I am frustrated with these pieces. So you've kind of created an environment, both in my home studio, both in my travel setups. And like, even like the new version of the Go Box is like, just like, it's creating some of these micro pain points that were in other environments that people that are not as tech friendly now are set up to do that. And I think it's very exciting to be like, oh, that is not, it's not that important, but man, it saves you like just 30 extra seconds.
Yes.
And it makes a difference with your energy, which makes a difference with your presence and how you show up.
It does.
In this situation, you come over here and it's like, sit down, press a button, roll this thing back, and we're live. And you have a way of doing that and allows the expert to be in their zone of genius. So that's exciting. There's a lot of people that say like, Zoom meetings are bad and Zoom meetings are like, they're not good for you. It's like, well, are they running a good, meetings are bad. Are you running a good meeting? So what would you say to that, to people that have to be on remote meetings? Like, how can you make a meeting good?
have a solid agenda and stick to that agenda, right? Tell the people ahead of time, this is what we're going to talk about, and this is the thing that we're going to solve for.
I feel like I'm being attacked. I don't ever do that.
But, same thing, Steve Jobs, right? When he did meetings, he was like, hey, do we need you in this meeting? If we don't need you, if you just want to sit in, I'd rather you not and do, use your time productively.
And I think most of the big companies, whether you look at, and again, there's thousands of companies that are quite successful, but we do look at the entrepreneurs that have personal brands. So
yes.
Steve Jobs, Bezos, Elon, and that's a very common thread between all of them, which is death to PowerPoint. And you don't need to be in a meeting if it's not pertaining to you, and 5-minute briefs before you get started, so everyone's prepared and on the same page, and then debriefing the meeting, which is really valuable. Great book, Debrief to Win. I think it was by a fighter pilot, on like what they do in that process. So if you ever want to like dive deep into like debriefs, we do this in film study all the time with sports, which is like, hey, the eye in the sky never lies. So what actually happened? Your perspective is one thing, but your perspective is attached to depth in your own mind, and depth perception plays tricks on you.
Yes, it does.
It does. Like I always tell people, like, this is one thing, a good lens will play tricks on you, because you're like, wow, your room's huge. And you're like, this is the right here. But it looks like if I walk right to the camera right now, this room will look like it's massive mansion, but it's all about the lens. And the lens in which you look through, the work that you did is a big deal. So we talk about in sport, the eye in the sky never lies, is because you were actually in that spot, even though you felt like you were closer. You felt like, hey, that guy's way too far away. And you're like, wait a second. Like, if you just made an adjustment here, you were there. You had that option. You just didn't have the effort. But sometimes our effort is diminished because we perceive things at a different depth. And you definitely give people the experience that they're in person. And when you could create something digitally in person, you tend to show up better.
Absolutely.
So what any last tips for people that are in Zoom meetings? They have to do them so that they can show up better in their meetings.
So have a better why on why the meeting is happening in the first place, and this comes from Simon Sinek's why, what, how. Because once you have that why and the entire team has that why figured out, I think you could do a much better job on Zoom. Now, other ways to bring the audience into your Zoom call is to do a dynamic Zoom meeting, and this is all going into software, right? This is what I do when I'm setting up a show for a live stream or a podcast interview. I'm bringing that person into my screen so that we're side by side and we're having this conversation. So if you're doing a meeting, and in fact, Zoom has a new feature where they have the multi-speaker option, right? So you have the speaker option where only you see the speaker, and then everybody else has this tiny window, and then the multi-speaker option kind of gives multiple speaker at the same time a bigger window, whereas the rest of the people who are listening are in a smaller window. So again, that creates more dynamic show or
absolutely. It makes them. It brings their energy, and I think people tend to like get Zoom tired, right? They talk about Zoom fatigue, so meeting fatigue. Like, I'm tired of this. The more you can kind of make it interactive, the better it is. So
the other reason why people might be getting Zoom fatigue is because they have the lights in the wrong place. Right, if they have lights right in front of them, shining in their face, and they're trying to look at a computer monitor, it's not conducive for you. And
that's interesting you say that, because I remember when you came to the house, the first thing you said, like, dude, like, I know someone has a bad setup if they have a ring light.
Yes,
it's the worst thing that you should, like, the worst thing ever invented for a good studio structure is a ring light, and it's because the camera's right in the middle, and then the ring's right on you, and it's like this, and you're like, at the end of the call, you're like, what the heck just happened? And you don't look that great because the light's coming straight on you. Right. But yet it was built like that.
Well, the ring light was initially designed for makeup. So designed.
I don't wear a lot of that. I should definitely. I should step up. I think that if I get famous and I'm like on TV a lot, because even when I've been on TV, they look at you and go like, hey, makeup ain't gonna help. We're gonna need a clown to really support you today.
No, but that's what the ring light was initially designed for, was makeup and portrait photography or creative photography more than anything else. But ring lights also don't have the throw power of light, because Like these lights are at least 4 to 5, 6 feet away from us.
Yeah.
But we're lit up perfectly because they have a ton of power.
I'm lit up well.
Right? Whereas a ring light doesn't have that much energy, doesn't have that much lumens to light you up. So most people have these ring lights, have these glasses on, and you can see these ring light reflections.
That makes sense.
Doesn't look well. So make sure you're paying attention to all of these things when you're setting up, because that first impression is what's going to give you much more energy.
I completely agree with that. I mean, my grandmother was all about like, hey, once you get to know somebody, they can see you in your pajamas, but don't you dare show up in my house unannounced and think that you're coming in, because I'm gonna look a certain way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I still laugh about that, but it makes a big difference. And I think that you will show up so much better and with more confidence if you know that your camera's crisp and the setup is easy and you don't have to do so much work. There's a lot of power just flipping a light switch, you know. One of my mentors told me, he goes, you know, yes, I have a home studio, but I also have an environment where I could like go into and I could just flip a light switch and then I could get to work, because I need to kind of have that brain space to think. So if you're going to go downstairs in your basement and you're going to build something, you're better off having something that you could just flip a light switch and be on mentally. And, you know, Simon, who I'm referring to, is without a doubt the foremost the world expert on models and frameworks and how to get people to, he says, when you draw people in. And I think it's the same thing with your video setup digitally, is like when you do draw, you bring people into that. So I'm thankful for this. I'm so pumped about the podcast setup here, so that we have a house, so we have a home where we could bring people into.
Yeah.
But if anybody wants to like build their studio, if somebody wants to really change the way they show up on Zoom so they could have more presence and build more confidence in their content, you know, you have some solutions for them. I would recommend that you could get, by the way, look, buy the book, but just don't read it. Like, I would honestly just buy the book, look at it and go, there's a lot of stuff in here I should do that I don't need to learn, and I should just hire you, which is what I did. And I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I did it because, it definitely gets me to show up better, and I appreciate the work that you do.
Thanks so much.
But I know that you could help a lot of people, so I think you got to get the message out there. You're really good at promoting other people and not promoting yourself, so I'll do that for you, since you did that for me. Like, you literally like, we need to get your Zoom set up, you need to get your house set up, you need to get your mobile studio. So I got 3 studios now, and you have told the world about 0 of them. So thank you for helping me look better online, so I don't have to wear as much makeup. And thank you for really just pouring into people, because you do a really good job of highlighting them. So thanks again, man.
Thanks so much. Absolutely. You mentioned a Zig Ziglar quote earlier. Another one of Zig Ziglar's quote is, if you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything in the world. So I'm trying to live by that token. And thank you so much for this conversation. I love it.
It's always fun. Yeah. We have a lot of work to do, and I'm excited that, you know, you're on this journey with us, to help so many other people show up better online, because the world needs to hear from better people. It's the same thing as, like, you could read a book and collapse 10 years of someone's life and experiences and get something out of it. If you're showing up, you're immediately better information. I mean, I have a mission that we want to help entrepreneurs that are the risk takers beat out their competition because they're better than them, not because they're better at marketing. We could be better at marketing. You're great at what your skill. I want you to show up. I want those hidden gems to show up. And I tell everybody, I have a team of Avengers around me, you know, and most people know me of like the doctors, the lawyers, the specialists. Like, we have like a massive group of people that are like, that guy's like the expert at this little type of nutrition over here for the issues. But I have an expert for almost everything I go to, because it collapses time for me.
Yes, it does.
Question for you. I think this is where I'd like to end is, you know, we talk about building super brands, and I have a team of Avengers, right? Well, like every superhero has, they have something that they're fighting for. You know, if you had to pick a superhero, you know, I mean, Spider-Man, Iron Man, like, who's your superhero?
It's Iron Man.
Is it?
Yes.
Cool. All right. So that's your superhero. Iron Man, you know, what was it? He was fighting for something. He was fighting against the fact weapons in the wrong hands. Because when he saw his family's name in an environment, and he's like, I will never lie then again. And then there was some sort of like flaw that humanized him with the world, whether he had a superpower or not. What is it that you're standing for? What do you stand for?
I stand for better. Stand for a better world for my children.
That's awesome. And then what do you stand against?
Stand against injustice.
So technically, he's Batman. Oh, see, we may have to fight this a little bit.
Might have to fight, yeah.
And then, like, what's your flaw? Because I think that, like, for Batman,
Sure.
right? It's he's definitely got like the social work-life balance issue a little bit, right? There's an obsession component of things. What is your flaw?
I easily go deep into several topics into my passion. I mean, my podcast is literally called Hacks and Hobbies. Right?
You've done about 700 plus.
I've done 700 plus episodes on there, and I go deep into those hobbies just to pull the thread that connects all of the hobbies into each other.
Interesting.
And if you think about it, in sports, in hobbies, in professionalism, the stuff that really works is the boring,
fundamentals.
the fundamentals, right? So, and that's what I pull out from those, and that's why I'm so passionate about the different things, because it goes back to the human core of what am I not working on that I should be working on. So that's been my flaw. Like, I know what I need to be working on, what I should be working on, but I rather help somebody else get there before I do.
One of my good friends, one of the smartest guys I know, he says it all the time. Ari Meisel says it. He goes, "You cannot read the label from inside the jar.
You cannot."
You know,
That's true.
It's like you got to get outside of your space. Sometimes it's good to help other people do it.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. We're gonna do some great stuff.
Absolutely.
You got it.